Today I'm showing you how to sew the Alicia dress. It's a long tiered dress with gathered panels. The bust is lined and features princess seams and the straps cross and tie at the back. We also have an elastic at the back of the waist. To make this dress, I partnered with the House of Textiles. It's a fabric store that offers many, I'd say, statement fabrics, somewhat couture fabrics. They have a unique selection of beaded, embroidered, sequined, embossed fabrics. They sent me a swatch box with quite a few samples of their fabrics, which I think is a wonderful idea. It's going to be so helpful if you have a small fashion business, or if you're really serious about a particular project and you want to make sure you have the right texture, the right colors, the right stretch, the right drape. I wish more fabric stores would do this, so this swatch box is available on their website. You can purchase it. So you want a woven non-stretchy fabric. The fabric I'm using, which I got from the House of Textiles for this tutorial, is a type of synthetic embossed fabric in a pinky champagne color. If you're looking for a better drape, you can take poplin, although poplin is still a bit crisp. Otherwise, cotton lawn, Oxford, gingham, double gauze, and of course linen, which would be perfect for this project. For the lining, you can take the same fabric that you took for the shell, or you can also take a cotton voile, which is what I took, or else any light cotton will do. You'll also need a bit of interfacing strip and some elastic band 9mm wide. Finally, if you're new to PDF patterns, please have a look at the video I made which explains how to download, print, cut, stick the patterns, how to pick your size, and other questions I get asked very often. Alright, let's have a look at the pattern pieces. We have here the front cut in the shell and lining fabrics, the front sides in the shell and lining as well, and you will want to stick some interfacing strip here because this area is cut in the bias and it's going to stretch out. I added it later when I realized that it was necessary. Next, the back parts, both the top and bottom parts are cut 4 times in the shell fabric. And then we have the upper skirt panel. You can't see, but there is a front and a back, and the front is 5mm shorter than the back panel. And below we have the lower skirt panel cut twice. And finally, the straps. All right, I take the front and the front sides and I pin them. And I do this for both the shell and the lining fabrics. I sew respecting 1 centimeter of seam allowance. There is always 1 centimeter of seam allowance already included in my patterns. And this is what I get. I make cuts in the seam allowance. And I press the seam allowance open. I grab my back panels, both the upper and the lower ones. You might want to keep the paper pattern next to you because personally I find the orientation of these parts a bit confusing. I make some markings on the parts. If you have a doubt, please go back to the paper piece. It's on it. So I have pinned my parts right sides together and I'll sew them together following these seam lines, like so.
I'm going to start the seam again from here too.
Now I press down, and you want to press the seam allowance down in this order. First, the seam allowance at the end of the panels, and second, those on the sides. After it's done, I hand stitch the seam allowance together at the corners so that they won't stick out later when the straps are going through them. I turn the back panels inside out. I press them down. I top stitch, and you want to top stitch close to the edge on the sides, but keep 1.5 centimeter of distance from the edge at the tip. I'll sew the back panels to the front. First, I take my ruler and I mark 1 centimeter from the bottom edges and from the armpit edges. Here again, you might want to go back to the paper piece to get the orientation right. I got super confused myself. Notice that the upper panels are a bit longer than the lower ones, and sew them in the seam allowance. I take my long strips of fabric, I fold them like I would bias tape, and I press them. I pinned the straps. I actually hadn't transferred the strap notches. You probably did it. And I sewed the straps in the seam allowance. Now you want to use your hot iron to fold the bottom edge of the lining, wrong sides touching, on 1 centimeter, and you press them down. I hadn't done it at this moment, but I did it later, so do it now, please. After you folded the bottom edge, lay the lining on the shell fabric, right sides touching. Sew on all edges except the bottom one. You check that you like it on the right side of the fabric. If it's the case, you can trim the seam allowance in these corners. Now I will understitch the lining. So again, for you, the lining is coming 1 centimeter shorter here, and you want to start the understitching about 2 centimeters from the edge of the lining. And me, I didn't do it. I had to unpick later. There you go, and give it a nice press. So it's time to take care of the skirt. We'll make the back of the skirt first. I'll take a first lower panel. I just want you to really transfer the notches. So you fold the panel in half and you make a notch. And then again, the halves in half to mark the quarters. I'm going to gather the edge of this first lower panel. So to do this, I'll set up my machine on the longest stitch length, and I sew 2 seams parallel to one another without back stitches. And this is what I get. Now I take the upper skirt panel, the back part, and remember the back part is 5 millimeter longer than the front part. You also make the notches at the halves and at the quarters, and we pin the gathered panels to the upper skirt panel, matching the notches. Stick a lot of pins, sew, and then finish the edges. You also want to finish the other edge of the upper skirt panel. I trace a line 3 centimeters from the edge, I fold and I press down, also close to the edge. Just make sure you have enough room for your elastic to go through. This is the result. I cut my elastic. And now the back of the skirt is done. Okay, let's do the front. So, same process. You gather the lower skirt panel, you sew it to the upper skirt panel, you finish the edge, and now you'll gather the free edge of the upper skirt panel, 2 parallel seams again. Make sure to start the seam 1 centimeter from the edge, so you don't want to stick the needle in the seam allowance. Also the back and front of the skirt together on the sides. Fabric is right sides touching. And then you finish the edges and make sure to not sew over your gathering seams and threads. So logically, once the back and the front of the skirt are sewed together, you can notice that the front part sticks out by 1 centimeter compared to the back, which bears the elastic. So you take the front bodice, right side visible. Again, make notches to mark the middle and quarters to the bodice lower edge. And I pin the front skirt to the front bodice. I check that things are correct on the right side of the fabric. See here, I don't like this little gap, so I'm going to correct it. Okay, this is what we have on the right side, and inside the dress it looks like this. I'm going to tuck the gathered seam allowance under the lining. And I hand stitch. Finally, the hem. So you want to try the dress on first to pick a length that you like on you. Then I finish the edge. I fold it twice and I sew. And that's it for the sewing. I'll show you quickly how to cross the straps in the back. I grab a safety pin and the strap will go through the back panels of the opposite side. A little bow, and that is the very end. I hope you liked it. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to ask them in the comments or send me a DM on Insta or on Etsy. I'll see you soon for more sewing projects. Take care. Kiss!